Anthony Darby, and I have with me Connor Sheffield. Connor, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
This is a really honor for me. I need to tell a quick backstory. So Connor's dad was my high school lacrosse coach my senior year and my college lacrosse coach at Howard. And we had not talked in probably 15 years, not even like Facebook friends. It was just kind of out of touch, out of mind. And all of a sudden I started seeing Connor come on the rise in the cannabis circuit of advocacy and his lobbying work and the last name. And it was one of those like, there's no effing way. And you go on Facebook and you put in Sheffield and there's the parents. And I was like, damn, it's Mike Sheffield's son. And literally we grew up, Coach Sheffield in my house where I grew up was 3 blocks away in Chesterfield. So it's a really small circle. So thank you for coming on. For those folks that don't know, I guess you're probably most known for Connor's Law, right?
Yeah, Connor's Courage, Connor and Raina's Law. It's gone by a few different things over the past year and a half or so. And
that was the advocacy work that yourself and your parents did to just allow you to be able to take your medicine at school, correct?
Yeah, that's been it was a struggle for a while. It was a pretty big struggle for a little while, and we went to Annapolis. We didn't know how far we would get. We thought it would probably take a few years, but we ended up getting it done right then and there.
So I was actually really surprised at the brevity and how quick you guys were able to get it accomplished. I'm going down next Thursday. Actually, I believe I'm virtually testifying now on a 280E bill, which is a tax bill that affects dispensaries that it really should be a no-brainer, but this is the 3rd time that I'll be testifying on it in a row. So to your point, a lot of times these things take, very often, you're wise, they take several years to enact. But you guys were able to put a compelling case together in an organized manner, and really we were lucky to get the politicians' buy-in that they saw the value in this. So kudos to you. That's kind of towards the end of your story. So tell me a little bit about like growing up and kind of growing up like with what you had going on.
Right. So when I was growing up, I kind of always had gastrointestinal and stomach issues. I was never like particularly in good health. I always struggled with eating. I threw up a lot. I had, I just had a lot of stomach troubles when I was younger. And for a very long time, we thought it was normal. We thought it was like just
kid stuff, right?
Right. That's what we thought it was, until the hospitalization started, and when they started becoming more and more frequent.
Is that because you couldn't eat, or just because the pain was so bad, or?
There was a number of things. For one, my intestines just flat out were not moving things. We didn't know that until later on, but that was something that was becoming apparent. They just wouldn't move. We didn't know why. All that. The pain. I was in a really really bad pain. That's how it started. We just ended up going to the hospital because I was in a lot of pain and I was starting to throw up, and I couldn't eat. I went a good few days without eating, and I didn't feel any hunger. That's how it was. I used to never be able to feel hunger. It was always in a lot of really bad pain, a lot of nausea. It was bad. People take for granted like the very simple ability to feel hunger, right? And to have the appetite. Not to completely interrupt you, but we deal with so many gastro patients downstairs, and their lack of appetite and these issues that they have. It's horrifying.
It typically, and I'm not putting you in this box, but then it typically relates to a lot of mental health issues and anxiety and concerns around all the things that come with a bad stomach, a bad gut, right? So you're being hospitalized, and now it's like this isn't just Connor's got a light stomach compared to his peers. This is like there's something going on here.
Yeah, it took a long time for anybody to not only realize it but really accept it too, because we didn't really want to think that there was like all that crazy stuff. We didn't want to think that
I'll just stop eating cheese, or I'll just like stop. Right. Probably like a lot of dietary changes and like just everything you could possibly try under the sun, other than accepting that this is something that's not going to get fixed.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it took 4 years from when the worst of it started to really get like an actual official real diagnosis, that's terrible. It took a long time, but we, even then the treatments were still limited, very limited, and most of them were also incredibly traumatizing to me. But you know, I'm here now. I'm here.
Lots of poking, prodding, lots of uncomfortable procedures,
lots of surgeries.
a lot of surgeries.
Lots of surgeries.
And the outcome was kind of the same.
Yeah, no, it would be a very temporary solution. That's what I would call them. I'd call them temporary solutions. It would be something that would work for. I could count on it for a year. Back when I had my feeding tube, that was one of those temporary solutions. Getting a feeding tube placed, which I actually got it removed roughly a year ago. Actually, I got it removed last January. Congratulations!
I'm sure that's probably a milestone in you wanted to be out of.
It's a huge milestone for me. I thought I was going to be stuck with something like that for the rest of my life, and had it for barely 2.5 years.
So, at what point are you losing faith in traditional medicine, and then is it your idea to try cannabis? Whose idea is it to try cannabis?
It wasn't particularly an idea by anybody. It was kind of we didn't have any other option. It was the very, very last thing that we could try. By the end of 2018, which is when I started December 27th, 2018 to be exact. Towards the end of 2018, we had come to the realization that I had tried pretty much every modern medication available to patients like me, including non-FDA and non-minor approved medications, and nothing worked. I would always get either like really, really bad reactions, or they just flat out wouldn't do anything, or they would cause even more pain, even more nausea, and just overall, you know, we didn't think anything was going to work. And one day, how does, I don't remember, Dad, how do you know, how do you know Bobby?
I knew Bobby. We just were friends with him for like 10 years.
Yeah, so my parents were friends with this guy Bobby, who owns
Bobby Windsor with
Bobby
Nature
Windsor.
Care and Wellness.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also owns Nature's Care and Wellness, all that stuff, and came to us, and he was trying to. He was following us for a little while, and he was trying to get me to try it pretty much for a good few years at that point, and we, you know, the stigma behind it, and we didn't want to go down that route, but I'm so happy that we did, because I can confidently tell you, and I say this to everybody that I have to talk to about this, I'll confidently tell you I wouldn't be here right now if not for trying medical cannabis.
So a couple things come to mind. One is I remember early in my experience when we opened the dispensary, I saw a lot of the patients, and a lot of the patients, they would come in and they were like stoked. They were so excited to see me, and it was like a great experience. Someone came in and she was like, I just got my certification today, and I was like, that's awesome, and I was like excited for her, and she was like, not really.
Right.
She's like, this is a testament that I'm at the end of my rope, and that everything else has failed me, and this is like, I don't want to be here, but I'm praying that this is actually going to help me, because this is like the last thing that I have to try. And it was at that moment that I realized that not all of our patients are excited about joining a medical cannabis program, and that a lot of them are going to come to us at their wits' end, and really in a rough spot. And I was able to gain a better appreciation for that. The other thing that you mentioned about you not being here is I don't disagree with you. And when I look at our patient breakdown, and this is no scientific data, but just my mindset. I look at our patient base. We have about 20% of our patients that will not be here if we did not exist. And I don't know that necessarily goes acknowledged enough. I think we have 20% of our patients that would much rather have a rec program than have to come to a medical program. And I think there's about 60% of our patients, and myself included, that use cannabis as a wellness tool, as a way to battle anxiety and depression. But if you took it away from me, I wouldn't necessarily die. I would be able to eat. I wouldn't have the same impacts that you have. So you get linked up with Nature's Care and Wellness, and do you remember the first product? Did you just smoke a joint? Did you use an edible?
No, we didn't start with smoking or edibles or anything like that. It was actually a drop of oil. Like it's a
sublingual tincture, right?
Yeah. And kid you not, first 30 minutes, and like I'm like, well, this isn't doing anything. It's gonna be just like another one of those medicines. And then like literally as I think that, I just get hungry. I get hungry, and it's like I never felt that before. I never felt that kind of hunger before, and then right as that happened, the pain went away, and I wasn't nauseous, and I was like, what?
Not only do I want to eat, but I feel like I can eat, right?
Yeah, I feel like I can eat. I feel like I can eat. And then I ate, and I didn't like struggle to hold it down, and I didn't feel like I was gonna vomit. I didn't feel sick. I didn't feel like it was causing me any pain. I just felt like I just ate, and that was it. And I wanted to eat more.
That's awesome.
And never in my life I felt something like that, and it's a wonderful feeling.
That's a real testimony. And did you have to? That's a great testimony. But with most of our patients, there's still some hurdles around getting the dosing right and challenges around that. So share with us a little bit about some of that too, because sometimes people listen to these podcasts and they hear someone who has a similar illness to them, and they hear all this amazing success. And it's not that it's not, but just like when you start a business or anything else, success doesn't look like this. Right. There's going to be hurdles. There's going to be overdosing, and no, he's not going to die, but he probably was groggy or wasn't able to operate in the function that he needed to. Right. Underdosing where you don't get enough to actually affect what you're trying to do. Cannabis has a biphasic effect, meaning that you really got to find a sweet spot with it. Too little, you're not going to address it. Too much, it's too much. So tell me a little bit about how you went through some of the dosing changes, and also as a minor and still an active person who, oh, by the way, Connor races cars, so we're going to get into that. These are all things that are going to play into, just like everyone else, if you need cannabis for a daily use, then you need to make sure that you're using cannabis in a way that's not going to affect your daily life in a way that you want to do it. And if you want to drive cars and you want to do these really cool things, then you can't be walking around stoned all day. And I know that you're not, but talk a little bit about how you started the dosing protocol. So you have this, you immediately have instant success that you believe that this is a tool that's different than what you've taken before. So now it's okay, now what, right? Right.
So we started off with a really small dosage because like my parents thought that any amount was going to get me super high. You know, as people who don't really understand it probably would think.
Parents. They don't know anything about alcohol. Alcohol or drugs can affect them. I promise you, Connor. Don't worry. We'll get on that later. Anyway, I knew your dad when he was wearing shiny silver V-neck T-shirts. Get out of here. Going to bow hangers.
No, that's just how they acted about it. Though, I mean, you know?
As they should. Honestly, my parents did the exact same thing when I was younger.
We didn't get it. Yeah.
So you start off low. Was it like too low where you say, Mom, Dad, I think I need a little bit more. Could you help me out? Like, I'm not trying to get stoned, or what was
actually that's pretty much exactly how the process went. Like the first week or so, like that really small dosage was good enough, but then I started like noticing that, you know, as I pretty much needed to take it every day, I kind of started building a slow and small tolerance.
Absolutely.
Like after a week we went from this like super small dose, we raised it just a tiny bit, and that was enough. So every now and then we may have to raise it a little bit. We
call it the fancy word is titration.
Yeah, pretty
much. And a dosing adjustment, and like anything else, your body will build a tolerance towards cannabis, and some folks much faster than others.
Yeah.
And that's why. And not so much for your case as you're taking it for the gastro stuff, but for folks like myself, I'll do tolerance breaks, right? Yeah. And I don't have to go very long. It's typically just a day. And I will instantly notice that kind of reset, and that a little goes a lot farther than it did if I'm building up, especially during, like, you know, every year in December it's the same thing where the holidays build up, stress builds up, I start consuming more cannabis, and then by New Year's Eve I'm kind of like noticing that I'm using more cannabis than I certainly was in the spring and the winter and the fall. Yeah, so I take a little break in January and really try to focus on it, and that's kind of the process I'm in right now. You could just balance yourself out. It's got to be a constant balance with cannabis.
Yeah, that's probably one of the only real struggles with it, I think, is just the constant figuring out the balance and then what works best for you, because everything, you know, the way with the terpenes and all that stuff, it really, what works for me probably is not what works for you.
Absolutely.
And, you know, what works for me is definitely not what works for some of the people who actually work at these dispensaries. You know, it's different for everybody. It affects everybody way differently.
Everyone's got a different endocannabinoid system, right? And if you believe the endocannabinoid system's main focus point is to create homeostasis and balance in the body, then that's going to be different for everybody, right? And it's funny. As the product selection has gotten so robust now, and I've really gotten to hone in and refine my products. I've changed so much since 3 years ago in terms of when I first started, what I thought I loved and what I thought was good for me is not always the case. I didn't take CBD regularly until a year ago. I'm about a year of taking CBD every day, and that's a huge part of my regimen and I'm able to cut my THC usage down by using CBD and get more when I use THC with the CBD. So I'm a huge proponent of looking at endocannabinoid system, looking at that holistic approach. But to your point, there's a reason why we have to have so many different products down there, because some things will be great for you and provide you relief, or for other folks it may make them too sedative, or some of the more racy things that I like with higher in pinene and limonene can make people have extreme anxiety and panic attacks.
I can't do pinene at all. Any pinene really messes with me.
Yeah, it's an absolute anxiety driver for a lot of people, and that was one of the things. So I used to seek after it for some reason, like early, and because it's stimulating, and I'm constantly trying to prove that as a cannabis user, you can play lacrosse, you can run a business, you can run as high performing as anyone can. So I was very sensitive to anything like linalool or heavy myrcene, beta caryophyllene that were going to make me drowsy or bring me down. But what I realized was that truthfully, high myrcene and limonene together give me the uplifting feeling that I need, but I don't get that racy feeling from the pinene, and that's kind of my best mix. And it took me a few iterations and probably about a year and a half of owning a dispensary and trying. It was hard work trying all those products, but I was happy to do it. And now I found a balance, and now that I've kind of gone through the exploration, I find myself in much more of a regiment now. You know what I mean? I don't really vary too much from what I go to. Yeah. And is that kind of where you're at? So how are things? Like, do you find that you're kind of balanced now, or things going?
Great. Things are really good right now, actually. Yeah, and I'm at a really good spot. I think I found everything that works for me, and of course I'm still exploring. And I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now, actually.
That's phenomenal. So let's talk about some fun stuff. So you started racing when?
I started racing back in 2015. I've been racing 6 years now.
6 years.
This is my 6th year.
And you started karts, or did you start?
I started with these little cars called quarter midgets.
Yep.
If you know anything about micro sprints,
I listened to Bubba the Love Sponge a little bit back in the early 2000s. Always talking about quarter midgets.
Quarter midgets they're interesting. They're interesting little things. Like you'd be racing 5 to 15-year-olds. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't great at it. I wasn't great at it for a good while.
But you kept going.
But I kept going. Yeah.
It was
the first 2 years were really rough, but we started kind of getting into a groove, and then I started winning races, and I started like really finding a greater love for it, and then it just built and built and built. And
I can only imagine the frustration when you're sick and nothing's working, and outlook looks a little bleak, right? So then you find cannabis, it makes you feel better. And then, did you always have a love for racing? I struggled.
I'm gonna be 100% honest. The first year, I struggled to love it. I knew that I did, but I struggled to, because we were just.
Why'd you do it? Like, what got you in a car?
I've always been into sports. I've always wanted to do sports. I played soccer briefly. I played football briefly. I played baseball for 2 years, I think. I've done a lot of things. Almost got into lacrosse. Almost got into golf, and. Well, like at pretty much one of the worst parts of my sickness, we were just kind of looking for something for me to do, because they didn't, they wanted me to be active. My parents wanted me to be out there doing stuff, not just sitting at home and like
feeling sick.
Yeah. So they knew somebody. They knew some friends who didn't live too far away, who their son raced quarter midgets. And so we kind of got into it from there, and I have some really funny stories to tell about that first year. But my favorite, am I allowed?
Yeah, please, absolutely.
So we used to roll up to the track with just the car strapped to the back of our truck. When all these other
Pasadena in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we just get these belts. We'd strap them to the back of the truck. And we'd go to the track, but all these other people, they had these big trailers, and they had all these tools and stuff. Yeah. You know what we blew up our tires with? We blew up our tires with a bike pump.
I love it.
There were these people with these like really nice like equipment, and they're blowing up their tires and stuff, and we didn't even know that we had to put air in them, so we ran on flats for like 2 months before we realized we have to blow up our tires. So we started blowing them up with bike pumps. So, everybody has their start somewhere.
I love it, yeah. I mean, no, and some of the greatest things are started from that, and you continue on to success that make that story even cooler.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's a huge passion. It's a huge passion that I have, and it started, of course, with that big struggle, but then I really put my all into it, and I realized that when I try, I'm good at it, and I enjoy it, and I have fun, and then so we started moving up, and
it's so important to have a passion. Like, for me, it's always been lacrosse. Mm-hmm. It's cool that your dad was a part of that for me. I got a lacrosse stick tattooed on my leg when I was 15 years old. Like, there was no going back. Whether it was cool or not, I was all in with the lacrosse stick tattoo. I do. Yeah. Actually, right there.
Yo, that's cool.
It's not awesome. Really, but it's cool that it's lasted. Awesome, I remember rolling in the first day of school, 15, with a pair of khaki shorts and my Reef flip flops and my calf lacrosse stick tattoo. Like, what's up, world?
That's cool. What?
So I was very passionate about lacrosse, and honestly, lacrosse was able to keep me out of a lot of trouble. And if it wasn't for having the coaches, my teachers, the worst thing in the world, we were just talking about this in the last podcast, but the worst thing for me was to see a teacher of mine talking to my coach, because then I knew that I was in trouble and that I was going to be running it. So because of that fear, I was able to keep my grades up. I was able to, to go to school and stuff. But as important as cannabis has been for me, it's not the end all be all. It's just a tool.
Right.
And you need other tools in your life. You need other passions in your life. And that's why I think it's so cool that, because of your limitations, because of your sickness, you maybe can't do all the same sports that everyone else can. So you found this passion that you have, something that, and I think that, I think it's important that passions come with foundations like strapping cars to trucks and doing that, because you get an appreciation for when you actually have some success.
Little things, you start to appreciate.
You appreciate it, right? All of a sudden you hear, and it's their air pump, and you think, hey, that's not a bike pump anymore, right? Yeah. And I see your cars now. They look pretty cool. You got sponsors paying for stuff now. I mean,
every time I see those cars, it feels like, especially now with the new jobs that we got on. If you've seen the new pictures on our page.
I do follow you.
I saw that for the first time. I saw that wrap for the first time, and I thought how far we've come since that crappy little white and blue car that we used to drive around a circle. And
remember that. Remember that evolution, because it'll repeat itself over and over in life. And when you're in the beginning of a journey, you got to remember sometimes the white and blue car. And when I think about here, like when we opened up on Snow Hill Road, I'm telling you, Gander Mountain went out of business, and I took 2 gun cases that they had and turned them into my display cases. They still had rocks in them when I opened up my first day.
Wow.
We had 6 strains of flower, 3 types of tablets, and an elixir.
Wow.
It was like the most humbling beginnings of possible. And
wow.
I worked every position in that dispensary, and we did a lot of sweat equity to get where we're at. And now people come in and they go, "Oh my gosh, this place is so big, it looks so nice." And it's like, well, yeah,
how far you've come.
Yeah, but I remember, I remember the come up. So what's next? So are you still racing quarter midgets? Look, your cars are bigger now.
No.
You look like you got real cars now.
I haven't sat in these things in 3 years. It's been a long time. It's been a long.
So what are you racing now? Are you racing stock cars?
So I'm in micro sprints.
Okay.
I'm in late models. We're looking at some other things.
Okay.
Very soon that people will hear more about.
Is there a lot of difference between navigating those vehicles?
That's hard to say. It's hard to say because everything drives differently. It depends all on the track. It depends on the people around you. I think personally for me, when it comes to driving these cars, it depends less on the car itself. It depends more where I am, what the track feels like, and who's around me.
Are they all dirt tracks or are these mixed?
Okay, so with the late models, right now we're only on asphalt tracks, but with the micro sprints, we're only on dirt tracks.
Okay, and what is the state of racing right now? Like, when is it springtime looking possibly coming back, or? Yeah,
we came back about halfway through last year. We were supposed to start back in March last year, but coronavirus hit. We were able to. It was a short season, but we were able to get some good races in last year. Especially towards the end of the year, I had some fantastic, really really good races up in PA, and I'm looking forward to this season. I feel like this is probably going to be a highlight of my career. I feel like this year is going to be really good.
What's the highlight of your career?
I think it's
so
going
far.
to be,
You gotta say so far, man. You can't be peaking yet.
I think this is going to be a really, really good year for me.
That's good.
We have a lot of big races lined up. We have a lot of important ones.
Do you stay mostly on the East Coast, or do you go all over? Or?
Well, mainly we're on the East Coast, but we're going to start going out Midwest with an outlaw pretty soon. That'll be good. That'll be fun. Keep an eye on that.
Make sure Dad doesn't get stressed out on the road trip. I can see him yelling on the way there, driving the trailer.
No, he's gonna be stressed out when we go. He's gonna be stressed out the entire time. He's gonna be watching that track and hoping that I don't flip and roll down that straightaway.
I can imagine.
That's what they're both worried about the entire time.
Is the crash?
Hasn't happened yet. Yeah.
What do you focus on when you're driving? Is there like a what's your mindset like? I mean, like you get in there. It's so weird to
explain. It's so weird. It's so like I don't have the words to explain the kind of mindset that I get in. Like as soon as I get in that car, I just completely switch. I really don't know how to explain it. I feel like I somehow managed to hyper focus on literally everything going around me at the track. Even if I can't see to the right of me, I know there's somebody to the right of me. Even if I can't see the left of me, I know there's somebody to the left of me. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. Because when I play lacrosse, you buckle a helmet and just I hear that second metal snap.
Yeah.
And I get in there, people throw balls at me at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I got my head's got to be on a swivel. I have a hyper focus to be able to track a white ball coming at me, and I have a hyper focus to know that I got an attackman who I can't see coming around the periphery on the back who's trying to catch a ball and dunk on me, and you just that hyper focus that you get in. So what I've learned is that hyper focus, right? It's not much different from a mental standpoint than meditation or anything else. Like if you allow your brain to check out from what mom and dad want, what school wants, what life is like, what girls you want to go out with, and all you're worrying about is trying to get 3 inches ahead of car 19, right? It allows, I really believe that type of engagement allows your brain to rest from the reality, and that's how you're able to stay sane, throughout the craziness of life.
Yeah.
Not everyone finds their passion though. You know what I mean? Like you see people that struggle and they don't necessarily always have that opportunity. I was lucky to find lacrosse, and it seems like you were lucky to find racing. Very, very, very lucky to find racing.
It's not one of those things that just anybody can get into. You have to have you can't just have the driver behind it. You have to have everybody behind it. Everybody who's working on those cars, everybody who's coming with you to the track. You can't have anybody being like, oh, I don't want to be here today. I don't want to do this today. Everybody has to be. It's a team sport.
Absolutely.
It is a team sport. Even though you have one driver, it's still a team sport because you have to have everybody there.
Yeah, it's so important that you recognize that too, and it's a lot of people, they look at it and go, "Oh, it's the driver." Well,
it's not
there's 50, 60 people behind that driver just in the crew, and then it takes the sponsors to give them the money. It's a wide net, just like everything. You can't just look at. There's no such thing in my mind as a self-made man. Like I just don't believe that mindset anymore. I mean, I think there's people that really take control of their destiny and that really influence how they are progressed through life. But you have to have friends, you have to have help, you have to have even just coincidental things happen to line up. Like sometimes the definition of luck is where preparation meets opportunity, but you still have to have a little bit of that luck. You still have to have that opportunity present itself. So I'm really excited to keep tracking you through the 2021 race year and seeing how that goes. You have a foundation as well, right?
We have we have a couple things.
Okay.
We have.
Go ahead and this is the time where you get to go through everything you got going on.
Yeah, so we have there's Project Big, which is helping us raise money for a fundraiser that I started a couple years ago at Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
And that is to help get some kind of research or some kind of equipment center built around Hopkins. That's going to help with the study and the research of GI issues such as mine. Okay. Not solely mine, but just all of that, because there's not enough study for it. Flat out, they're not doing any study. It's not in Hopkins at least. They're doing stuff up in Baltimore. They're not doing anything here, which is it's crazy.
Okay, so you got Project Big. What else you got?
What else do we have?
Can you tell them a little bit about the coalition?
Oh, the coalition. Okay, so we're starting. We're gonna get another law made.
Okay.
We're gonna try to federalize. First of all, we have to get marijuana deschedulized.
First
of all, we have to do that. Then we have to federalize medical marijuana in hospitals. We're not saying that the hospital pharmacies have to provide it, but just that the caretakers, the consumption of it, right? Because say I have to undergo a big operation, I have to be there for a week. What am I going to do? I can't do it. I can't do it.
I had a very frank conversation with a CEO of a local hospital. There's only 2 in here, so you can guess which one it was. Where he laughed at me when I tried to bring this up to him, and I said, "What happens when we have a pediatric patient who has epilepsy, and she's an asthmatic, and she breaks her leg?
Right.
She has to have surgery. Now she's been in your hospital for 18 hours, and it's time for her to have her medical cannabis treatment. Are you not going to give her treatment and let her have a seizure, or are you going to force her to take seizure medications that are not part of her daily protocol? What are you going to do when that happens? And what do you want the press and what do you want the world to know that the treatment was in your hospital for her?"
Right.
And I think
that's a very good question.
It's a very serious problem. And quite honestly, we were talking about CBD at this point. We weren't even necessarily talking about
not even THC.
Not even THC.
Just CBD.
Just because I don't know what's in that. Well, you're gonna have to have a better mindset that the only way that you can use cannabis is by smoking a joint, and that that this doesn't really affect you.
There's so many forms of cannabis consumption out there that are often overlooked. And when you think of cannabis consumption, when most people think of, they immediately go to smoking a joint or smoking a bong. But I mean, I take a tincture. I take 3 tinctures throughout the day. I take one early in the morning, as soon as I wake up. It'll set me through the day, but then it'll start to come down, right? So I need another. I need another dose in the middle of the day to keep me stable.
Yep.
And then I need one at night to help me sleep.
Yep.
So that's part of the reason why we had to get that law passed as well. Because that was when we began to recognize that is an actual issue, and it wasn't. Obviously, the law wasn't solely for me. When we started to figure out this is a problem, I personally began to realize, if this is a problem for me, then how many other people are having this issue? And
probably almost every other pediatric patient that's a school age.
Probably every single pediatric patient who's in school. Yeah.
It's a challenge, and it continues to. There's other repercussions, and I know that you're a tough kid and have tough skin, but just even isolating that student and saying, well, your medicine's different than every other student's medicine.
Right.
In elementary school and things like that, like those are lessons learned that kids are picking up of, whether you know that you're putting that message out there or not.
You can a lot of athletes take opioids.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
They
You can take like a good amount of opioids in the nurse's office under the nurse's supervision, but you can't take this tiny little amount of medical cannabis, as in it's not even going to slightly affect the way that you focus. In fact, it'll probably help you focus.
Yeah.
It helps me focus. I've got a form of ADHD.
So do I.
Actually, and I struggle really, especially with the online schooling. I struggle really bad to focus. So
that's back where that's the TV or those like the limonene comes into play. The day we opened our dispensary, I stopped taking Adderall because I knew that if I had actual options of cannabis that wasn't just sleepy cannabis, that I could take it and it would allow me to focus and allow me to be more productive than I was on, in my opinion, glorified meth. Mm-hmm. And not to discredit anyone that's taking Adderall, it serves a purpose, but in my mind, if you're going to look at all substances, then you need to evaluate how much more dangerous Adderall could be than cannabis, if we're having an intellectually based conversation.
It's a big challenge. The stigma is really. Sucks that the past couple of decades, marijuana has been pushed out as like this horrible thing. It's gonna like it'll lead you down this terrible path, and it'll kill you, and you can overdose on it. It's addictive and this and that. It's a horrible mindset that people have gotten into.
So I know that you get a lot of praise and people are very proud of you left and right. I'm sure there's a lot of the conversations like we're having today, but did you run into some adversity? Did you have any teachers that were like, or did you feel the stigma on you, or did you feel like you were doing such a good job of kind of breaking that stigma down that it was a lot more praise and a lot more welcoming?
I'm not really sure. I think I definitely got like the looks from my teachers back when I first started coming back to school, because I used to not be able to attend school. My sickness was so bad that like they would have to send out teachers to the house and they'd give me like 2 hours of work, and then that was it. So where I would be doing a full 7-hour day, 2 hours stuck at the house, you know, it sucked. It was really not good.
Yeah. You're missing out on the social aspect of school, and yeah, I can imagine how tough this was, man.
And I had to do that for a very long time, and I would only really be able to attend school for a quarter and a half, and then the rest of the time was just that. It was horrible. It was really bad. There were times I missed literally entire quarters of school at once, like not like sporadically, but just the entire quarter consecutively wasn't there. And that was a really, really bad time. But I have not, fortunately, seen much like anything directed towards me. I think I've seen like a few Facebook posts.
You can't read the comments, man. You can't read the comments. I know, yeah, they're the worst.
Yeah, I definitely have seen things on Facebook like that. It didn't specifically say, but you can just kind of pick it up.
I pray my kids never read the comments written about me on Facebook. I promise I'm a good person, man. People get behind those keyboards and they just write whatever the hell they want.
I know.
It's crazy.
Social media is insane. Social media is crazy.
Your mom keeps posting stuff telling people just go cook yourself a dinner and stop bitching about everything and get back to normalcy.
Please.
I don't hate that. All right, so the coalition. We're going to do some more advocacy around making sure that, if someone's in the hospital, they're at one of these medical units, they can get their treatment. Is that, not that this isn't enough, but is there more?
Is there more? Is it? I think that's really...
That seems like a pretty good schedule.
Yeah, that's that.
Well, I really appreciate having this conversation today. Look forward to having you on in the future as we see more progress from you. And
it's been a lot of fun, yeah.
Thank you so much. And for anyone that wants to follow Connor, is it just Connor Sheffield Racing?
You can follow me on Connor Sheffield Racing on Facebook.
Is that the best way?
That's the best way to follow us. We're trying to look into getting more out there on like Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. But it's like we're trying.
Absolutely, man.
So right now the best way to follow us is through our Facebook. But eventually, when we start getting more active on Instagram, we'll start promoting that to the Facebook as well. So if you guys just want to follow any of that, Connor Sheffield Racing on Facebook.
Thanks a lot for coming on, Connor. Have a good day.
You too, man. It's been awesome.